I grew up in a small rural town, the kind of place where everyone knew each other, and the woods stretched for miles behind our houses like an endless green ocean. As kids, my friends and I would spend hours exploring the dense forest, daring each other to go deeper, to find the old abandoned cabin or the so-called witch's tree that our older siblings warned us about. But as we got older, the thrill of the woods wore off, and we found other ways to entertain ourselves. Except for me. Even as I got older, I found something almost hypnotic about being alone in the forest. The way the wind whispered through the trees, the distant hoots of owls at dusk, the feeling of being so small in the midst of something so vast. It was my escape. That was, until last summer, when I saw something I shouldn't have seen. And now, I don't think I'll ever feel safe in the woods again. It started with a simple hike. I had just finished my first year of college and had come back home for the summer. One evening I decided to take a walk along one of the old trails behind my house. The sun was just starting to set, painting the sky in fiery shades of orange and pink. It was beautiful, peaceful. But then, as I reached a small clearing, I saw it. At first I thought it was just a deer, a large, gangly shape standing at the edge of the tree line. But something was off. The way it moved. It was unnatural, jittery, like a puppet being yanked by invisible strings. And then it turned its head toward me. That was when I realized. Its face wasn't right. Its eyes were too large, black pits that swallowed the last light of the sun. Its mouth was slightly open, revealing teeth that were long and needle-thin. It had arms, long, too long, hanging limply by its sides, its fingers twitching like they had a life of their own. And then, it smiled. I don't know how to explain it, but I felt that smile. I felt it in my bones. A cold wave of dread washed over me, rooting me to the spot. My mind screamed at me to run, but my legs refused to move. Then, it took a step toward me. That broke the spell. I turned and ran, sprinting through the trees, branches clawing at my arms and face. I didn't care. I just needed to get away. I could hear something behind me. No footsteps, just a low, guttural clicking sound, like chitinous limbs scraping against bark. When I finally burst out of the trees and into my backyard, I slammed the door behind me and locked it. My heart pounded so hard I thought it would burst from my chest. I peeked out the window expecting to see something. But there was nothing. Just the quiet, darkening woods. For the next few days I tried to convince myself that I had imagined it, that my mind had played tricks on me. But then, things started happening. I began hearing noises at night, scraping sounds against my window, low, clicking noises coming from the trees. My dog, Murphy, who usually loved sleeping by my bed, refused to come into my room anymore. He would just sit in the hallway, staring at the window, growling softly. Then came the dreams. I kept seeing its face in my sleep. That horrible, unnatural grin, the way it twitched and jerked as it moved. In my dreams it was always just outside, watching me. I would wake up drenched in sweat, feeling like something was in the room with me. I stopped sleeping. I stopped going outside at night. And then, one night, I saw it again. It was around 2 a.m. I had woken up, my throat dry, and decided to get some water from the kitchen. As I passed by the living room, I happened to glance out the large window that faced the backyard. And there it was, standing at the tree line, closer than before. My breath caught in my throat. It wasn't moving, just standing there, its black eyes locked onto mine. The porch light illuminated its body, making it look even more nightmarish. Its skin was pale, almost translucent, stretched too tight over its bones. And then, slowly, it raised one long, bony arm and waved. Something in my brain snapped. I dropped the glass of water and bolted to my room, locking the door behind me. I didn't sleep that night. I just sat in the corner of my room, clutching a baseball bat, waiting. But nothing happened. The next morning I finally worked up the courage to go outside. I needed to see if there were footprints, some kind of proof that I hadn't imagined it. But the grass was undisturbed. like nothing had been there at all. But I know what I saw. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, I've barely left my house. I keep the doors locked, the blinds shut. But I know it's still out there. I can feel it watching me. 2 nights ago, I woke up to the sound of my front door handle rattling. I sat in my bed, frozen, listening as something scratched against the wood. And then, the whispering started. A low, raspy voice, calling my name. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Eventually, the noises stopped. But in the morning, when I checked the front porch, I found something that made my blood run cold. A single, long, pale finger bone. I don't know what it wants. I don't know why it hasn't just taken me yet. But I do know one thing. It knows that I saw it, and it's not going to stop until I see it again. I decided to confide in an old local named Hank, a retired hunter who had spent his entire life in these woods. When I told him what I had seen, his face went pale. "You need to leave," he whispered. "It knows you saw it. It won't stop now." Hank told me about an old legend, something ancient that had lived in the forest long before our town was built. People went missing over the years, but no one talked about it. "Once it marks you," he said, "there's no escape." But I have to try, and I think I know where to start. The abandoned cabin deep in the woods. If there are answers, they're there, and I have no choice but to find them, before it finds me first.